Hey everyone, we are here to talk about intentional inclusion and accessibility. I have two incredible speakers and experts. And first, we have Jourdan Saunders, who's the CEO and founder of the Resource Key, which helps businesses build brand recognition as an inclusive industry leader and increase profitability. She was also awarded LinkedIn's Top Voices for Equity and Inclusion. Next, we have Valerie Lawrence, who is the founder of Thriving with CP, a disabilities advocate, diversity champion, and life coach. Let's welcome them to the show. Hello, hello.
Hi. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing pretty wonderful. It's a Friday. I think one day when someone's like, how you doing? I'm like, I'm doing great. It's a Monday. I'm gonna use it for every day of the week. I feel like I use it way too much for Friday.
Thank you for having me.
So I guess I'm really curious, what's top of mind for both of you right now? Like what's really taking up most of your time and day? And Valerie, I'll start with you.
Really coaching right now, just because of the shift in the world. I was really focusing on corporate, which I think is important to corporate sensitivity training, just to kind of bring sensitivity to mostly with disabilities. Obviously, I have cerebral palsy. I'm a mom of three, a wife. So the corporate world was challenging for me, at least when I was out there working, just because I think people were not, they would say things like, oh, I forget that you're in a wheelchair, or I forget that you're this. And I want to be treated the same just as anybody else, but also we have to be sensitive to maybe some things that may be easier for me. So I was really focusing on sensitivity training in the corporate world and just sharing my experiences on things that maybe made me uncomfortable, that there may have been better ways of going about things. But now really working with life coach because yes, I have cerebral palsy, but I'm very relatable. And I think a lot of times people, they see a disability and they're like, well, I'm not disabled. Can you still work with me? And I said, yeah, I coach my husband all the time and he's not disabled. I tell him what to do every day. So
Yeah, I would imagine it adds even more so of an experience. Because I think back on my life, every time I did something that I didn't do before or was exposed to a world that I was never exposed to, I became just more of a well-rounded individual to be able to understand all individuals. And so I would imagine with your experiences, I mean, you are even more relatable to people from all walks of life.
I like to think so. And exactly, I think that sometimes people may be standoffish, like, oh, she's disabled. Can I say this? Can I say that? And, I think that the best way about going towards things is just to ask. It's, don't make it the elephant in the room. So is there anything I can help you with? And that's just my personal, I don't get offended. And, if I need help, or if you want to open the door for me because you see me walking in on my crutches, yeah, it's fine. I just don't want to, I want to make disabilities normal, I guess, and inclusive. It's another way.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. And I hope to get into that in terms of how do we normalize, I think, just the human experience and being overall, no matter anything. And
Right.
so Jourdan, for same question, I guess, what's top of mind for you right now?
Yeah, so lately I've been working with businesses with the marketing team to make things more inclusive and accessible in social media, because so much of what we do is through social media and how individuals find businesses as well. So if things like alternative text are not included in images, and that is basically kind of a setting behind the scenes. You can describe a photo that you post, and that is so if anyone is using a screen reader, they're able to understand what is in the image. So someone that may be blind or have low vision may benefit definitely from alt text, dyslexia, all of these different things that anyone can really benefit from too. Because even let's say you go to a website and the image doesn't load properly, the alt text will usually show, okay, this is a picture or a person standing by or sitting in a chair drinking a soda or something along those lines. But I work predominantly in terms of social media and with marketing companies, just how can you make things more inclusive and accessible, and then also making sure prioritizing people with disabilities. A lot of times any talk around diversity, inclusion, equity is not including people with disabilities. So I think a lot of the work that I do is to make sure that people with disabilities are included.
Wow. So I guess the biggest question, how do we ensure that people with disabilities are included in the workforce? Like, if someone's listening to this and says, wow, I never thought about that, or I've thought about that, but I don't know where to start. So like, what's that first thing that someone would need to do as a maybe a leader in an organization?
Yeah. So I don't mind starting, and then Valerie, feel free if you want to answer as well. But I think one of the biggest things is from the initial point of I think a lot of people talk about like website accessibility and things of that nature as well. Like access is super important, I think, before anything's, because there may be different things related to accessibility in order for someone to be able to even access the job opportunity. So if a website's not accessible and someone, let's say that maybe blind, is trying to apply for a job, that may already present a barrier because they're not able to navigate the business's website in order to even apply for the job. So I think, that's one thing that a lot of businesses can make their website more accessible. Partnering with different disability organizations to make sure that, the difficulty isn't, we want to hire people with disabilities, but we can't find anyone, sometimes that may be like a business, they may say that's a barrier, but like I say, partner with some disability organizations. And I think it kind of goes back to the intentional part, aligning these different things so that there's not these hesitations or barriers, or also too with like the accessibility, aligning with disability organizations. They could probably help guide you in the right direction of different resources or companies that could assist you. So that would be one of the things why I think when we're talking about inclusion, we have to talk about accessibility too, because sometimes that hinders people from being able to, even apply for a job, let alone, let's say now someone has applied for a job with disability. If you get to a business office or, when things start opening back up, can the person if someone's in a wheelchair, can they get into your organization? Are there only stairs? So now you have someone that's ready to go and interview, but now you can't get up to get to the job to interview. So that is my, perspective in terms of just some of the things that why we have to talk about inclusion and accessibility when we're talking about these things.
I love that you mentioned this, partnering. It's like, why start from scratch yourself when you're not the expert? Find an expert and talk to them. And also look at how your entire organization, how it operates. And from, will people think of applying for our jobs? Can they apply for our jobs? And how do we ensure that they have an experience similar to our other employees when they even come to interview and also when they come to work? And how do we ensure that we do that? And I don't think when you break it down like that, it doesn't seem intimidating. It seems like very reasonable and very simple in terms of what you need to do. But it's just now, you may miss something if you haven't done this before. So partnering with someone that's an expert, again, it seems critical. Valerie, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I agree with everything that you said. And I think hiring maybe somebody that's disabled that can really speak from experience, because I know, like I said, sensitivity training is so big, and it doesn't have to be sensitivity training as far as like book work. And this is maybe just sharing experiences, because that's real, that's raw. It doesn't have to be so high tech, like, hire somebody that's disabled and can just share their corporate world experience and what may have made things easier. If I can share just like a quick story that comes down to accessibility, and this is when I was much younger, so I had more of a different attitude towards things. But I worked for a call center, and my position was actually upstairs. And when I went into work one day, the elevator was broken. Now, I'm a very independent, let me do it on my own type of person. I have humbled myself as I got older and things got harder. I have children, so things are much different now. My body is different. But, I was like young and, I could do it all on my own. So I came in and they told me, hey, the elevator is broken. We're going to get you a wheelchair so we can, push you to the other side and get you upstairs. Well, they didn't even give me the opportunity to say, I can walk up the stairs with my crutches, give me a chance. So again, maybe ask people, would you be open to, I just want to make things easier for you. Would you be open to maybe us pushing you in a wheelchair? So I wasn't open to it. I wanted to get up those stairs by myself. And so I said, well, I'll just walk up the stairs. And they said, well, then you're going to need to come earlier so that way you can clock in on time. My response, I was young, no, you're going to need to fix your elevator, or I don't know, I'm going to come in at the same time and I'm going to walk up these stairs. So just ask people, what are they comfortable with? What would be the best opportunity or the best solution for you? Because like I said, now I would say, yeah, sure, go ahead and get the wheelchair, push me right around and let's get in that elevator because I'm tired. But back then I wanted to do it on my own. I wanted the opportunity to have my own independence. And so, yeah, just make it accessible. And, they put in a door that the circle doors. Well, what about people that can't go through those? I mean, that's not, so you have to walk all the way around the building. Make it so that way, maybe put the door right next to the other door. Just make it so you can make it almost like there's no change. It's just the same as somebody else, maybe 1 foot over, 2 foot over, whatever the case is. But definitely give the person the opportunity to tell you what they are comfortable with. Don't just make the assumption.
A really powerful story. I guess thinking of what you said in terms of they didn't even give me a chance to say anything. And then when they said something, it wasn't the right thing. And do you have any advice on, well, if you are operating with different real world experiences and you don't want a wheelchair and you want to walk up the stairs with crutches, how are you supposed to respond in those situations when someone approaches you with maybe like they don't fully get it?
Yeah, well, don't be a little brat like I was. I was 18. And, just maybe tell them, hey, I know that this might be a new experience for you, but if it would be okay, I prefer personally to walk up the stairs. Yes, it's going to take me a little bit longer and, still be accommodating to them too. They're obviously, it's not intentional that the elevator is broken. So, be respectful to that also. But, I'll try to come in a little bit earlier, but I would prefer to walk up the stairs. I still want my independence, and hurry up and get your elevator fixed.
I was just thinking, if I sat in a wheelchair and tried to go about my day, what would I learn? What experiences would I have? And how, would that add a perspective? And I don't know if that's something that you're nodding, so I don't think that's too far fetched. And I think that, in this situation, could I get to my desk? And if I can't, then we need to fix something. I think I can go for everyone.
Yeah. And that's for anyone. And even something as simple as like, maybe it's a team meeting and we're going to have a luncheon. Okay, everyone line up and go get the lunch. Well, there's no space for me to line up. And how am I going to get around the table? Simple things like that, and of course, when you become, an employee, you make friends with people and stuff like that. And they may say, hey, Val, I can get your plate. What is it that you want? But what if you're new and it's still kind of awkward? You still want to make enough space for people. Like that is very, very important to at least give them the opportunity to do it on their own. When you become friends, or some people are standoffish because they don't know, but they're losing an amazing opportunity to get to know somebody. And that's okay. You just have to kind of stand out and let them know, hey, it's okay. I'm a mom too. And then, when I say that, people are like, what? I'm like, yeah, I'm mom of 3. So I get it. And so then that's when you become more relatable. Oh, wow, she is, or whatever the case is. But accessibility is huge. It's definitely huge.
Yeah. And you just kind of hinted at this this intentional inclusivity. And so it's like you just said, how are you approaching everyone within the workplace or even in your life in a way that builds relationships? And so, Jourdan, I wonder, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, everything that's been said, that Valerie said, was just right on and really important. I think the other piece is just a lot of times I think sometimes the breakdowns happen when people shut down and disengage when the information is not provided in a way that they're comfortable with. And I think, and just an example, just even like Valerie had said, maybe years ago she would have said it a different way than now, but like not everyone's going to say it in the way that you're comfortable with. And I think that's okay, because it's like, depending on the day, someone may have had a lot of things that they had to do to accommodate situations that were not accessible or where they didn't feel inclusive. And then they're getting to you at maybe the end of the day or whenever it is. And it may just, the communication may just be a little bit more tense, I guess you could say, but that doesn't mean that that you're like, oh, well, I tried, and then you stop engaging, because that's just observation. I've seen that a lot, where people are like, well, I already tried to like engage with them. And I'm like, just because you engage one time does not mean
It's like with anybody, I try to be, I text moved to Austin recently. I'm texting people I just met. There's like no responses. I go up to someone and talk to them. There's like, but it's just like, yeah, it's like everyone just when building relationships, it's like, how do we just see it as this human interaction? Like, of course, there's going to be, of course, always some, I don't know you, like, but if we lead with everyone is good and everyone means well, I think that can help create greater relationships.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because it's almost, I think of it like kids, how kids, they get, my daughter does something and gets in trouble or something, and then she's on to something else like 2 minutes later. You're seeing it, just like you said, as if it's, all right, the person means well, like just give it another try again later, but just continue to engage and have that conversation. Maybe it's, in a different way, and I think it's, yeah, it just takes time sometimes. And I think that's what we want a lot of times when we're talking about diversity, inclusion, any of these things, accessibility. We want things to happen. Like, people want a quick fix, I guess, that's, and that's not like how it works. We're human beings. And I think we have to like continue to keep the lines of communication open, because things are going to change. Someone's needs today may be different tomorrow. I'm non-disabled, but I don't know, tomorrow it could be, you don't know. And I don't think people want to look at things like that. A lot of times we have, I think optimism is great and all these things are great, but there's also the reality of like, the saying of, I forgot who first had said it, but like, at any disability is the only like, minority group that you can enter at any time. Someone could be non-disabled today, and a week later, maybe, something happens and now you're disabled, and then your perspective shifts, and maybe you're like, oh, wow, I see why this person, it was so important for this, and this to be in place.
That's a really powerful point. I just want to call out Dr. Candy Williams said that each state has vocational rehabilitation agencies that can provide resources. And so thank you, Dr. Candy, a fellow old classmate of mine and friend. I guess on that note, what resources are available for organizations or individuals that might want to learn more or do more in this space? Valerie, would you like to jump in?
Yeah, I mean, I run a nonprofit organization myself, and we're very new. But like I said, sensitivity training, and this is all experiences from me. And I, if it's okay, I just want to dip back really quickly on the accessibility point. I think
Yeah,
that a
please.
lot of times when you're going for a job interview, you know, find out exactly what would that person put, what kind of value, what's a good place to place them in that will value not only themselves but the company. How will it, you know, how can they help in both ways? And this is just another quick experience. That's why I share so many experiences in my sensitivity training, because I think raw and real, it's more beneficial than just, you know, a tutorial. I feel that way. And so I went for an interview. For most of my interviews or things I've ever done, I was comfortable on the phone behind the scenes. And the reason being is because for that moment, say I was on a call center, for that moment, I was the same as everyone across the board. Nobody on the other end heard me on the phone. So they hated me as much as they hated the next person that called them and asked them to do a balance transfer. They yelled at me just like they yelled at the girl that ran to her desk, right? So I wanted to step out and I wanted to do something face to face. So I applied at a clothing store. And I had an interview and they said, well, what is it that you've done? You know, how can you bring value to our company and things of that nature? And I said, well, I worked at, you know, a call center and I was doing security, calling to see if there was fraud on people's cards, things like that. Well, the only thing that they heard in that conversation was the word security. So they placed me in the front. And this is truly how I felt like, okay, we want to hire her, but what are we going to do with this little disabled girl? Well, we're going to put her in the front as security. I'm 90 pounds, I'm 4'11", and I'm on a scooter. So if you came to steal that sweater, more than likely you're going to be successful because I'm not going to stop you. So again, they just heard the word security and they said, oh, she'll bring value to our security. No, I won't. I will not. And so again, I was extremely uncomfortable because I felt like I was put on display. Not really even security, more like a greeter. Hey, the little handicapped girl's waving in a wheelchair. And it was really, really uncomfortable. But I say this to bring it back that not only people with disabilities want to be valued, but just people in general. So just because I'm disabled don't mean you need to cater to me. Treat me the same as you would anybody else, but, you know, be sensitive. And so I'll never forget, like I said, I was in the front and I was just irritated and I had a bad day just like anybody else did the night before. And I'm just like, so let me go sit in the front of the store during the holidays and try to stop people from stealing, whatever. And so I'm sitting there and there was a lady that came in every weekend, like clockwork. She came in and she just stared at me. And I was like, you know what? I am so over it. It was every Saturday. Like literally just stared and I'm like, you're an adult, you know better. So I don't care if I lose this $10 an hour job. I'm saying something today. I'm over it. I am not your, you know, gawking person, whatever. So she's checking out and she's going to walk out. And she said, can I say something to you? And I said, yeah, with a crappy attitude. I was annoyed. And she said, I come here every weekend because you inspire me. She's a teacher at the college. She's a professor. She said, I'm a professor and I talk to all of my students about you. She said, I have MS and there's days that I can't even get out of bed. I want to put my foot so far in my mouth and I'm like, oh my gosh, you don't know what somebody else is thinking. You don't know. So because I'm disabled doesn't mean I get to one up on somebody. Well, I'm disabled. You owe me this. You don't owe me anything. I owe you as much respect and it's equal. We are all human and we need to take accountability and we need to just honor each other, be respectful, get to know each other. So I had no right to get so angry and I was just irritated, but I didn't know the situation and she has MS. So I think really listen to the person in the interview. Really see where is the best place I can put this person and they can shine, you know, not only for themselves, but for the company. Really, really listen to people, not just the disabled. And my husband, he's Black, he's from South Africa. Inclusion, we're like a diverse family, like we got all kinds of colors, we got disabled, but we value and we love people. We love each other. So I think it's very important to love one another and really get to know people.
I feel that life coach coming out, and it's so true though with all relationships, hold off on your first assumption. Don't even make assumptions or judgments. Have a conversation. See what's going on underneath everything, and also be transparent and open about what works and what doesn't work for you, and then listen to someone else and how they respond, and then dive into it even further. Again, it's just like human conversations, and we get so far away from it, I think, because and I'm not blaming anyone. I think we also just try to live a life that's efficient and effective, and where we're not we're trying to take the easiest path, but that's not the easiest path a lot of the way, a lot of the times, and it's not the best path at all.
Yeah, I totally agree. So sorry I went on my little tangent, but that's, I think, real life experiences and real heart, like you said, getting to know each other. Sometimes it's not the fastest way. I always say CP, I read this somewhere, CP is like taking the scenic route. I'm gonna get there. Just let me go a little bit longer. It's gonna take me a little bit longer. But it's okay to do things differently and to see things from a different perspective. That's okay.
Jourdan, do you have anything to add to any of our remarks?
No, I'm so glad, Valerie, you shared that story. I think it really just put things in perspective. One of the things that I do that I've started, I would say, like more recently, is just anytime there's like a meeting that I'm setting up, I always ask, will you need any accommodations for our meeting? And I'm not like, and that's just like a best practice thing that I've started implementing. And I think that's one of those things, like, I'm not assuming, because it's like if I'm asking only certain people, then I'm assuming that, someone's disabled and maybe someone's not disabled. So I think it's something that businesses, best practice or refineries can just say, hey, will you need any accommodations for our upcoming meeting? Or just something where you're asking everyone. Sometimes I'll get responses back like, okay, see you at the meeting. And that just gives me like the notification, okay, they don't need anything. Or some people say, oh, wow, thank you. That I'm so grateful you asked. I won't need any. Or some people will say, oh, I would love it if we can do video, but I prefer like phone or something like that. And I think that's super important too now with everything. We're at home, and everyone wants to do video, but like some people may not like. We're expecting people to put their camera on or their video, and that may not be something that someone's comfortable with. So I think, yeah, or maybe sensitivity to something light or maybe whatever it may be. So I think we just have to like have these like best practice things too that are embedded so that we're kind of not assuming like, oh, I should ask this person because I think they have a disability, because like Valerie was saying, some disabilities are invisible.
Yeah. I think we're more likely to ask someone's dietary preferences for lunch than we are to ask what they need for work or a meeting, and they still get that wrong. So there's a lot to do in terms of, I think, really just inquiring in terms of how to best serve basically your employees. That's really what it is, and basically help them feel more engaged, to build greater relationships, and to be more productive. So do either of you have any last words of advice? I guess I'm going to say both of you have to have last words of advice. So I'm going to ping Jourdan first, and then we'll go to Valerie.
Yeah, I would say just, I think it kind of goes back to what we've been talking about. Just like listen and like actively listen. Active listening, not just listening to say that you heard someone, but like really just taking in what people are saying. I think is just really like something that's really valuable. Empathy, and some days we will be maybe better than other days doing that, because it also depends, sometimes it's understandable, different, you may be going through something yourself. But I think it's important. And I think one of the other things I would say is we don't have to always try, if someone's sharing a story or sharing something, we don't always have to feel like we have to provide a solution necessarily, just automatically. Sometimes it's just really valuable to listen and take in. And, I hear what you're saying, and thank you for sharing this story with me. I really appreciate it. So I think, yeah, just listening, I think it just goes a long way in empathy, and just understanding that sometimes when we may be uncomfortable when someone's sharing something, like sometimes it's allowing us to like reflect as well, like why is it make us uncomfortable then sharing this and this, in terms of like if someone has a disability and they're sharing their story and you're not comfortable because maybe it's something that you've never experienced. But I think sometimes in uncomfortable moments are also learning opportunities and times to be able to grow and learn new information and see things from a different perspective than our own. Because a lot of times when we're choosing different, that could be from friends or people associate with or whatnot, we usually are choosing based off of who we're comfortable with, or maybe someone that is similar to us, or things like that. But I think there's also growth in having conversations with people that may not look like us or have the same experience.
I love what you said about comfort, because until we normalize inclusion and accessibility, you can expect to be uncomfortable. And I think when we feel comfort, maybe that's when we know that we've reached a point where we are being an advocate, an ally, and inclusive and accessible. I like that. I really, really like that you brought that up. Valerie, any last words of advice, things on your mind?
No, I totally agree with Jourdan. I think enable for you to grow, get comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's even the way for success. Dive in, hold your breath, jump into the cold water, because you know what? If you don't, you're going to stay put. You're going to stay in the same position as you are in life. You're not going to be able to, don't let fear hold you. Like, what is the worst thing somebody's going to say? No, leave me alone. Okay, keep it moving. Like, it's not, at the end of the day, your job, you spend more time at your job than you do at home. That's a second place for home. Maybe somebody's going through a hard time with their spouse, or, they want the personality or the culture of the company to be inviting. Be that inviting place. Be that place where they can, call that a second home, because that is where they spend most of their time. I think that if, like you said, if you don't get comfortable with being uncomfortable, don't expect to grow. So
how can our listeners find out more about you? They're resonating. They want to become uncomfortable and have a conversation. They're interested in thriving with CP. Where do they connect?
Well, we have a family YouTube channel where we just share, vlogs and things like that about my life as a mommy and as a wife and a normal life. CP is just a part of my life. It's just something I drag behind me because it's a pain in my butt, like, honestly. I'm like, I got things to do. So that's where I share that. And that's Valerie Lawrence with CP. And then our website for coaching, or if you want to, like I said, for other companies, sensitivity training, it's thrivingwithcp.org. Or you know what? I apologize. We just changed the website. It's cpndthriving.org.
Perfect. And I'll throw those in the notes. Jourdan, where can our listeners find out more about you?
www.theresourcekey.com. And
Perfect.
also LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. I get them out.
Yeah, I'll throw those in the notes as well. Thank you both. This has been a pleasure, eye-opening, and a great addition to my Friday. And I look forward to getting more uncomfortable.
Thank you.
Thank you.